My guest today is Jake Myers. He is now a certified personal trainer working out of Choose Fitness in San Diego. We obviously talk about fitness, talk about his relationship with Christ. Without further ado, Mr. Jake Myers. Okay, now we're officially rolling.
Yes.
This is the legit thing now. So, Jake, thanks for coming on, man.
Of course.
So, you're a personal trainer. How long have you been doing this for?
I've been training for about a year on my own, but at a gym for about 2 weeks now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what made you want to do such a thing like that?
Well, ever since I was about 12 years old, I've been like a little self-conscious about my physique, and so I started getting to the gym and stuff. And then when I was in the gym, the biggest thing was I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just wasting my time and that I was doing the proper things. So then that led me down like a path of research and stuff. And then I got into the anatomy side of it, the physio side of it, and then really once I knew that I understood the information well enough, I wanted to go and spread that to people. And then that's kind of what led to me becoming a personal trainer.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And to get yourself started like in the gym, right? Like what all did you do? Like what was your research like?
So I started with just YouTube videos because that was like the best source of information
For sure.
that I knew to get. Like I didn't do any like peer reviewed stuff yet. Mainly just like guys like Jeff Nipper, Dr. Mike, like the big famous guys.
Yeah.
And then I kind of would be very curious about a topic, and then I'd look at multiple videos, I'd look at podcasts, and then I would then go to like sources like PubMed and stuff, and then look at the peer-reviewed like literature and stuff, and then kind of analyze that for myself as, you know, I grew and wanted more in-depth answers. And then that kind of led me realizing that a lot of the research is done kind of poorly, and you have to, if you're not reading the study, there's a lot of misinterpretation that can come. So I like to read the studies for myself so that I can interpret it.
For sure. Because I know when I first started up, I got more serious about doing weightlifting. Actually, it was like right before COVID happened.
Yeah.
Literally, my friend and I got memberships like a week before COVID started. And then after that, man, it's like, well, what can I really do at that point, you know? And then at that point, like I would do like push-ups at home for a little bit of time, but like honestly, I was mostly just doing cardio stuff. So by the time everything opened up again, it was like, well, I'm down to a weight that I like, right? But I'm just not built the way that I want to. I'm definitely like a runner's body for sure.
Yeah.
So
Calisthenics can only take you so far. Like when you're starting, it's definitely good enough and way better than nothing if that's all you have access to. But in the long run, your body will need more resistance.
For sure. And that's what I realized too. So like you said, like, well, where do I start if I really want to get serious about this thing? Like I was watching like you said, Jeff Nippard, Dr. Mike Israetel, all these other people. And then when I saw the results that I was getting, right, I was like, okay, well, seems to be working then.
Yeah. Experience is a huge thing too, because when you're a beginner, kind of everything works. So if you want to lift really heavy or you want to lift really light or you don't want to track your workouts or you do, like, it doesn't really matter because your body, it's so foreign to you that basically anything will help you grow. But once you get past like the 6 month, 1 year part, you kind of have to start getting a little bit more focused. And then every subsequential year, you have to get more and more focused and pay attention more to what you're doing.
Can we go a little bit more in depth as far as like a beginner though? Like if someone was like, let's just say that they've been to gym to like a couple times, right?
Okay.
Like in their life, like they've never been serious before, but like now they're finally starting to actually get serious and they want to do the best things that they can as a beginner. Can you walk through what you would recommend doing?
So as a beginner, you don't need to be going to the gym 6 times a week, hitting like multiple hour a day sessions. I would typically do 2 to 3 times a week, typically like full body splits. So each day that you're in the gym, you focus on like the main movements. So a vertical pull, a horizontal pull, a vertical push, a horizontal push, and then some sort of squat and hinge movement. And then you can throw in some arms, but honestly, your arms will grow just from the big compounds because again, you're so new that you don't even really need a lot of isolation movements. So really sticking to like compound movements, normally machines, because they're just easier to learn and they don't take as much.
Probably helps with the form too.
Yeah, the technicality of free weights can be a little challenging if you don't have someone there like helping you or spotting you. So machines 2 to 3 times a week, full body probably.
Okay. Let's just say that you were a beginner. What machines or what workouts specifically would you be doing? Like, would you be doing like certain like rows? Like let's just kind of go through it, right? So let's just talk about like biceps. Like, what would you do for biceps if you were a beginner?
Biceps, I would pretty strictly just do dumbbell and barbell curls. And then you can have little variations in there, but you don't even really need it. You can pretty much do like the same foundational exercises every single lift without much variation, because again, your body just doesn't need it. But maybe like a dumbbell curl on day one and then a barbell curl on day two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then triceps.
Triceps, I'd probably do a cable push down and then maybe some sort of a skull crusher. Either barbell or dumbbell, either one would work.
Okay. And then let's go ahead and do back.
Back, I would do either like a lat pull down or assisted pull up machine, because probably you can't do pull ups if you're just starting out in the gym.
Yeah.
And then for your horizontal rows, you could do, just like the cable rows or chest supported machine row. Either one is pretty fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about like quads?
Quads, I would try to do squats. Now it's a very technical movement, so to kind of help with like the ankle, I would do like heel elevated, to put a plate under your heels to let you get more mobility. But
Mhm.
I find like a lot of people, like when they get to the very end, they're rounding their back, they're kind of falling over. It's kind of funky. So doing maybe like a leg press or like a machine hack squat is really good too, just to start out with and get more comfortable with going to the gym.
I knew I was missing one on the upper body, shoulders.
Shoulders. So I would do side lateral raises because your side delts don't get hit a lot with the pushing movements. So when you do a lot of pushing, a lot of front delt too. So I typically don't do any isolations for front delt, and the pulling movements, you get a lot of rear delt. So again, I don't do a lot of isolations for that, but your side delt doesn't get hit super hard with pushing or pulling. So it kind of needs that isolation. But a lot of beginners will find that you're using like the 5-pound dumbbells, 2.5-pound dumbbells, because it's a very small muscle group, and so
For sure.
it takes a while to work your way up in weight. So
Is that the biggest part of the shoulder as far as like trying to get like width?
oh, absolutely. So the biggest thing that contributes to width is the side delts and the lats. And so when we're hitting our vertical pulls, that's mainly our lats, and then when we're doing side delt raises, that's how you really get those like wide boulder shoulders.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then going back down to the lower body, hamstrings.
Hamstrings. So depending on how your form is, of course, RDLs, Romanian deadlifts, are really good. It just tends to be, again, very challenging. It's very technical.
Yeah.
So doing just like a seated or lying hamstring curl is totally okay. And then for your quads, also leg extensions, totally fine, especially when you're just starting out.
And then calves, are they worth doing?
So I think it depends on your goals and what's important to you. So a lot of people don't really care their calves look. They just don't care. And so if you don't really care, you don't need to train them.
Yeah.
And some people are more genetically blessed than others. So like for me, calves are a strong point for me. So I don't hate calves. But if you're someone who wants to bring up your calves, absolutely, yes, training them's a good idea.
Because I know athletes, right? Like I think Saquon Barkley, people say that his lower body looks insane.
Yeah.
Whereas like let's just say the UFC fighter John Jones, I don't know if you watch the UFC at all, but
Yes.
he always gets ragged about his calves.
Yeah. And I don't know why it's calves in particular that people are like, oh, it's so genetic. You can't grow your calves if you hit them. That's not really true. I mean, they might be a little bit more stubborn because we use our calves all the time, but you can absolutely make like solid improvements in your calves by training them. So for that, I would say standing calf machine raises. You can do seated, but it targets more the soleus than the gastrocnemius, and so it's not a huge calf builder. It's better just to do the standing calf machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as the intermediate person that wants to go to the gym, someone that's had a routine for some part of time, took months off, wants to get back in, it's been serious. So they've had some growth before
Yeah.
in their journey. So like you probably would maybe recommend probably the same types of movements that you just recommended, but as far as like a certain regimen throughout the week, what would you give them?
So if they're someone who has been training consistently and have now reached intermediate, that would be different than what I'd recommend for someone who took a break off. So if you took a break, I would basically recommend what I'd recommend to beginners, just for like the first couple weeks or even months, just trying to work your way back into it, kind of like resensitize yourself. And then once you hit that point, or if you've been training consistently and then become an intermediate, then you kind of got to focus a little bit more on like periodization, which is like, I can't hit chest, I can't hit chest on Monday and then hit chest again on Wednesday because my chest is just too sore, or you're kind of having like overlapping issues. And now you're working in a little bit of heavier weights. So you got to really focus on your form, especially for like joint and tendon health. So overuse issues are more common. So I would recommend you can still stay at 2 to 3 times a week as an intermediate. Totally doable. The gains just might slow down a little bit just because of the nature of muscle building slows down as time goes on. But I would typically recommend like 4 to 5 times a week. An upper lower, or a push pull legs upper lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because for me, I usually do like the put. Let's see. Because I know these usually push pull legs, but because I don't want to be in the same schedule as other people, as far as like making sure that the machines are open, I do
Yes.
pull push legs.
Yes. Either any order's fine. I typically like to separate my push and pull days with my leg days. So I actually do like pull, legs, push.
Gotcha.
But that's just like personal preference. It doesn't really matter the order too much.
As long as you're hitting those areas
Yes.
during the week.
And the biggest thing is you don't want overlapping soreness. So
Sure.
if your chest is super sore and you have to hit chest again, that's okay if it's a couple times. But if on a regular basis, your chest is just always sore and you have to hit it when you're sore, it's probably your periodization and you're spacing out between workouts, and maybe you're just doing too much in those sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, let's just say that I wake up and I'm supposed to be doing push today, but my chest is sore. Then would you recommend just skipping the chest altogether, or would you maybe say just go down and weight and just do maybe the same amount of reps, but just go less on the weights?
So because your chest hasn't really recovered, I doubt that you're going to be able to get a lot out of this workout. So I probably just skip the chest and try to hit something that's not sore, and then just hit chest the next day or the next available day that you're not sore in.
So mainly just listening to your body.
Yes. Yes.
Making
it's a
sure
big
you know
thing.
how your body operates.
And when you
Some
don't,
some people recover faster than others, of course.
yes.
So just trying to just figure out a good schedule that works well with your body.
Yes, and the biggest factor when it comes to soreness is mostly volume. So if you're doing very high volume, you're typically going to have more soreness and you're going to need longer to recover. So if you're doing higher volume, definitely spacing the workouts more to ensure proper recovery is important. But if you're doing pretty low volume, even if you're training at failure, it's kind of hard to get sore after you get past those first initial weeks. So it doesn't become much of a problem.
What would you consider high volume?
High volume to me would be 15 plus sets. So I know like the literature kind of says like the average volume is 10 to 20 sets a week, but like as a natural, 15 plus sets a week is kind of a lot. So
Okay.
like for me, I actually tend to go more towards the lower side of things, like 8 to 10 sets a week. Just because I personally like to push a little bit harder in the gym and like take things closer to failure. Not because it's more scientific or anything, but personal preference reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said about 8 to 10 sets. What about rep range?
So this has kind of become like a huge controversy recently, with people saying lower rep ranges work better than higher rep ranges because the higher rep ranges cause more fatigue and don't allow you to push as close to failure. But then when you look at the literature, I mean, there's multiple meta-analysis that show that 5 to 30 reps grow the same amount of muscle. So again, it kind of comes down to preference, and big thing is trial and error. So trying to see like side lateral raises doing 5 reps, probably not going to feel super great on the shoulders, not a great pump. But if I do 5 reps on like dips or dumbbell bench press, it could feel very good for my chest. So it kind of depends on the exercise and how it feels for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about pre-workout?
Oh, I love pre-workout. Yeah.
Okay.
Caffeine and I mean, kind of like creatine too, it's like super researched. So it's totally safe. I don't go above 400 milligrams a day, even though most people probably can. They could probably go upwards of like, I think Huberman said he has like 800 milligrams a
Oh,
day
wow.
or something like that.
Oh,
So
that's wild.
pretty much, but I like to stay within 400 milligrams just for my own health.
Anything in particular that you enjoy taking?
So I don't really like powdered supplements. I like I just don't really like the taste, and a lot of them don't have the amount of caffeine and obviously the taste that I want. So I
Mhm.
normally drink like Celsius's and Bangs and Reigns. I mean, I like a wide span of
Do you use
energy.
any of those as a pre-workout?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Typically about like 160 to 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay.
And I typically take it like 30 minutes before my lift. So it hits like right as I start my lift.
Because I'm at the point now where, I mean, I grew up drinking like Coca-Cola, all this caffeine stuff, but I'm getting to a point now where I feel like I'm actually feel better without caffeine now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying my best to stay away from caffeine.
Yeah.
Am I really missing out by not taking pre-workout?
No, so caffeine does have a couple benefits. It actually kind of acts as like a pain repressor. So when you are working out and you're really feeling that burn, if you're on caffeine, you might be able to get 1 or 2 more reps just because of that pain repressor aspect of it. But Really, it's more of a psychological effect more than anything, especially because if you've been taking it for like multiple weeks now, caffeine, you're probably already a little resistant to it. It's probably not doing a whole lot. But for me, it's almost like a little bit of a ritual. So I take my caffeine, I get all hyped up, and then I go to the gym. So when I don't have my caffeine, it feels a little bit off,
For
but
sure.
there's nothing wrong with not taking caffeine. And I could pretty much guarantee you'll get all the gains that you could have if you were on caffeine. So.
So we've talked in passing before about creatine. We talked about how you weren't a respondent to it, but can you just talk about creatine and what it would be, like the benefits of it would be if you were a respondent?
Yeah, so creatine seems to have a little bit of an energy boost and a little bit of muscle strength wise as a result. And then also your body holds on to a little bit more water in the muscles. So you're supposed to look a little bit fuller, a little bit leaner too. But I did not experience any of those things. I felt like the exact same. And it seems to be like a very minor effect, even for the people that do take it. And it's something that only works when you're consistently taking it. So you can't really cycle on and off. You just have to keep taking it to get the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who doesn't have a lot of money and creatine costs a lot of money, I didn't really see the benefit to it. So
Because what's the percentage of people that don't respond to it at all?
it's like 30 to 50% of the population. Again, limited research, but that seems to be the figure. And so if you take it and you feel like you're getting a lot out of it, whether it's just a placebo or if you really are, then by all means keep taking it. Why not? There's really no health concerns. Like a lot of people think it causes like hair loss and liver damage, but that's like all been disproven. So it's totally safe. But if you're not getting the results that you think you should be getting from it, then just stop taking it. It's probably not doing a lot for you.
'Cause technically, like if you eat meat, it has a certain amount of creatine already
Yes.
in it. But in order for you to really get the benefits of creatine, you really need to make sure that you're oversaturated in it.
Yes. And then like on a little side note, like the whole like loading creatine and not loading creatine, I wouldn't recommend loading creatine. You can do it and you'll get the same exact effect, like nothing like that, but you just run through your creatine a lot faster and it does the same thing as just taking 5 to 10 grams every single day.
Because I've done both sides of it before. I've definitely done the loading before in the beginning, which honestly, depending on what your body's like, you just got to make sure that you completely make sure you're hydrated because it will
Yes.
deplete you for sure.
Yes. No, I had stomach issues too. And so like I was just like, no, isn't really for me.
But the idea of loading right is just making sure that you're getting your creatine storages
Yeah.
high in that range that you need to be in order to see the effects. But you're just shorting down the time because
Exactly.
if you're doing the normal dose right, I think it says maybe about like a month or so is when
Yeah.
you'll really see the benefits of it coming through. But instead of doing 3 to 5 milligrams per day, hoping to get to that month cycle where you're completely stored up, you're practically doing, what is it? Is it 20?
Yeah. It's 20 milligrams.
For about a week or
Yeah.
so, at least, in order for you to really see those benefits.
Yeah.
Because technically, right, once you load up like that in the first week, you technically could go down less, right?
Yeah. You would have to. You couldn't say it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You would go down, but you're basically just speed running that first month. But like I said, the stomach issues and stuff, not anything like serious, but just like
Yeah.
constipation issues and
Because
stuff.
for me, I'm a creatine taker.
Okay.
And I feel like I
nice.
have seen benefits as far as my recovery goes. I feel like when I do take it properly, I feel like in between sets, I feel like I'm more refreshed for the next go around. Whereas if I'm not taking creatine, I feel like it takes me longer to kind of get my muscles to get back into lifting for the next set.
Yeah. And so like someone for you, I wouldn't just say, oh yeah, creatine's useless. You shouldn't be taking it. Like that's totally fine. And
Mhm.
you should probably continue taking it if you're experiencing those effects.
And then I've even heard too, it might even have some cognitive
Yeah.
improvements as well. I mean, that's still being studied, but from what I've heard, it's good for cognition.
I've heard that too. Yeah, again, kind of limited research, but if that is true, and when you take it, you're experiencing those cognitive effects, then continue taking it. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
biggest thing is no natural supplement is going to make that big of an impact. It just isn't because naturally you're very limited to how much muscle you can put on, how fast you can put it on, how lean you can get. So if any supplement company is claiming that you can make unrealistic, not natural gains from this natural supplement, it's not true.
Well, let's talk about like the most important one though, protein.
Protein, yes.
So, what's your recommendation for how much protein you should begin in?
So I typically recommend 1 gram per pound of current body weight. And although the literature shows that you only need 0.7 grams, there's different qualities of protein. So not all protein is created equal. So like protein from eggs compared to protein from bread, it's two different qualities of protein, and that's
Mhm.
measured based off of how many of the essential amino acids does it contain and how what's like the digestibility of it. So there's a score, I forget the exact name. It's like protein digestibility correlated amino acid score, something like that. And then if it's a one or close to a one, that's a very good high source of protein. And if it's closer to zero, then it's not very good. And so having 1 gram per pound of current body weight gives you some wiggle room for some low and some high. And that kind of all evens out to about 0.7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, because for me, I feel like on average, I'm usually getting about 100 grams of protein a day.
Okay.
So I wouldn't really necessarily be hitting the levels that you're saying right there. What's like a good way to get that amount of protein that you need to get in order to really see muscle growth?
So chicken and rice every meal. I'm just kidding.
Just a whole bunch of protein shakes.
Yes. So I like to get in a lot of my protein from like meats, obviously. So like steak, chicken, and then like fish too and stuff. But I like to supplement a lot with like protein snacks. So I like protein yogurt, like protein chips, protein bars, protein shakes. And it just makes like getting my protein so much easier and I enjoy it. And it's not like a huge task. And I can still have like some meals that are not super high in protein, but if I have a protein shake and a protein bar to go with it, then now it's a high protein meal. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how I get in my protein.
Because what chicken, steak is anywhere probably between 30 to 70 grams of protein right there,
Yeah.
depending on how much you eat.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard, especially if you're going out to eat and stuff, or you just can't afford like the super expensive like meats and stuff because it can get very pricey.
It can
So
add up for sure.
having some like nice protein snacks that are low calorie, high protein are important.
Because even my protein shake that I take after workout is about 42 grams of protein.
Yeah.
I have those Fairlife shakes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've tried them before, but like they're so delicious.
Yeah, I like Fairlife, and then a brand that I really like for protein shakes and bars is Pure Protein.
Okay.
So I just get like
And how much protein do those things carry?
the Pure Protein like chocolate shake is 30 grams of protein, 160 calories, and then the protein bar that I like, it's like the salted caramel. It's 180 calories with 21 grams of protein. And then I like the what is it? Oikos
Uh-huh.
protein yogurt.
Yeah.
That's like a if you get the triple protein one, it's like 100 calories for 21 grams of protein, which is
It's not bad at all.
just absurd. And it tastes super good. And I can have like 2 cups of it and quick 200 calories, 42 grams of protein. So
That's solid. And then what about like, because there's so many proteins, right? There's whey protein. People do like plant-based protein. Like,
Yeah.
what's your recommendation?
So whey protein, so that score that I was talking about, like the 0 to 1 score, one used to be the egg, and that was like the golden standard. Whey protein is a 1.04. So whey protein is even higher than what we thought the golden standard was in terms of the quality of protein. So whey protein is obviously number one for me. Plant-based protein, totally fine. And the only problem with that is a lot of them don't contain all the essential amino acids. So if you are a vegetarian or on a plant-based diet, my recommendation is actually to double the amount of protein. And that's what makes it so hard is it just doesn't have all the essential amino acids as meat does. And so you have to eat even more to balance it out to get all your protein in. So yeah.
Hmm. So for anybody that's like a vegetarian, like they're
Yeah.
gonna have to do a lot more than.
And a big thing is diversifying the amino acids in the protein. So we don't want to just consume the same essential amino acids. The point of having different sources so that like if we're deficient in one amino acid, we can make it up with another source of protein. So definitely as a vegetarian or plant-based, having multiple sources and eating just like a crap ton of protein is really important.
So after a workout, I'm done, right? I should be getting some protein after my workout. When is that window open? When is that window closed? Should I be taking protein right after my workout? Should I give it some time? What's the window of that looking like?
So the anabolic window, as people call it, it used to be believed that it was about like 20 minutes to an hour after lifting. But the literature just doesn't really support that. It shows that that muscle protein synthesis, which is that anabolic window that we can consume a lot of protein to go to the muscles, is actually more like 24 to 48 hours after lifting.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's not super important to have protein right after your lifts. I do it just more for like habit reasons. So I hit my workout and then I get my protein in, not for any like extra benefit, but just to build that habit. But definitely consuming protein within three or 4 hours after your lift, I think is a good idea. You don't want to go too long between meals without protein, but there's no magical number in between to when you should be exactly hitting your protein, and there's wiggle room.
So what about glycogen storage?
Yeah, so that one actually probably would be smart to replenish right after your workout, so you can just get in like quick, fast acting carbs. So really whatever your preferred carb source is, just consuming that about an hour or two after your workout's a good idea.
And then why replenishing glycogen storage? Why is that important?
So mainly because of the feel that you're going to be feeling, you kind of feel just kind of dead after a workout, and that's because your storage is depleted. And also, if you're in a bodybuilding or anything like that, you'll be looking very flat. So it's important to replenish pretty soon after, because those kind of do need to be replenished after.
What do you recommend? Berries, juice, Gatorade.
Yeah, pretty much all of the above. There's not really a wrong answer there. But I would typically try to find something that is not super sugary and super high in calories. So like those electrolyte, I think it's literally just called electrolyte drinks. You can find them at like gas stations and stuff. Those are really good because they're not super crazy high in calories, but they have all the carbs you need. So
Okay.
yeah. And then obviously hydration. That's a super important thing. So many people, including myself, are like severely dehydrated, just not drinking enough water. So drinking about an ounce or like zero point 0.8 to 1 ounces per pound of current body weight is a good idea. Very hard to hit. Like it's just you just have to be constantly drinking water. So there is wiggle room. But just trying to drink as much water as you can is important for performance and your overall look too, and how you feel.
Because I think the hack for making sure you get enough hydration is carrying like some kind of water bottle with you.
Yes, the big like gallon jugs. That's what you see with all the bodybuilders and stuff.
For
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, because if I didn't have that thing around with me, I would never be drinking water.
I mean, who wants to refill up like 50 times a day?
for
So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I usually carry, I forget, I think mine has like 64 ounces in my bottle. So
Yeah.
I usually try to fill at least 1.5 of those a day,
Yeah.
if not 2.
Yeah.
But sometimes though, I feel like when I do drink the full 2 or whatever, by the end of the day or whatever, I'm constantly having to go to the restroom. Always.
Yeah, that's the other thing is you just have to like a piss magnet. You just have to keep going, keep going. But
For sure.
yeah, it's important to stay well hydrated, especially if you're lifting in really humid or hot conditions or you're doing a lot of cardio or anything like that, like super intense workouts, because it's a lot of sweat. And if you don't have all that water in you, you risk, the health concerns and stuff of like passing out or anything like that. So staying
Mhm.
hydrated is very important.
What's your opinion on high interval training?
Um, I think it's perfectly fine, but I would also say it's equal to steady state. So, kind of like a lot of things in the fitness industry, it's kind of like there's multiple answers and they all kind of are the same result. So, if you want to do hit cardio for less time or steady state cardio for more time, it's going to be the same amount of calories burned at the end of the day if you equate the times. So, I'm not against it. I think it's a fun way to get in cardio, and steady state can be really boring, just walking on a treadmill for hours and more time efficient. So I like it. I support it.
Okay. And then cardio wise, for someone that's trying to build on muscle, but also not lose their muscle, but still enjoy the idea of running, what would you usually recommend for that?
So if you're gonna be running, I would typically recommend like 75 minutes to 150 minutes a week. If you're gonna be doing something a little bit less intense, you can go 150 to 300 minutes a week, just as like very general recommendations. But for me, I actually kind of intertwine a little bit of cardio work within my workout session, and I do that by antagonistic supersets. So I take two not directly related muscles and function, and I pair them back to back and then rest. And that way, while one muscle is working, the other one's resting. And the only reason I do this is mainly for a time concern because I don't have a whole bunch of time to be in the gym. And all the literature shows that there's no significant difference between straight sets and antagonistic supersets. So if I'm getting the same amount of muscle, I'm getting a little bit of a cardio benefit and it's saving me time, I see why not. So
Because I know for a lot of people that do love to run up quite a bit, it will definitely deplete your muscles. It'll break down muscle a lot quicker.
yeah, if you are really concerned about building muscle, especially if you're maybe on the smaller side and you're trying to really build up, you can actually counterbalance this with just eating more. So if you go for a run for 30 minutes, like really intense, adding like 400 to 500 calories on top of that day could probably counteract that effect. So
Okay.
yeah.
And then what about for people that are worried about if I run too much, I'm not going to be able to grow my muscles? What about instead of running, what about swimming? Do you know anything between the aspect of running and swimming when it comes down to muscle breakdown?
So the the catabolic side of it really just comes down to how much and how intense are you doing it. So between running and swimming, they can both be equally as catabolic depending on how you perform it. So the biggest thing that I'd recommend is spacing out your resistance training sessions with your cardio sessions. And I know that's not always possible. It might only be 30 minutes between just because of the time constraint. But if you can, maybe doing your cardio in the morning, waiting multiple hours and then doing your resistance training is a good idea. That way we can ensure proper stimulus for resistance training and there's enough time so that we're not super fatigued or tired from our cardio session.
Okay.
And
Is there
then, yeah, just eating a whole bunch of protein and a lot of calories to kind of counterbalance.
is there anything that's major that I should have asked you as far as like building muscle? Is there anything also important as far as even recovery? Is there anything that you could include as far as the tidbit goes before we go on to the next part?
Yeah. So the two biggest things for resistance training is consistency and tracking your workouts, like by far. So that's why I try not to give like super specific exercises, like you must do these exercises, because to be honest, a lot of exercises work and a lot of them work relatively the same. Some of them might be like 5% better, but in the long term, you probably won't even really be able to see it. So picking exercises that you enjoy, emphasize full range of motion, and are the most, you want the hardest part of the range of motion to be in the stretch position. So, for example, like banded pull ups, it's easiest at the bottom and then hardest at the top because the band is no longer helping you as much at the top. So it's kind of like the reverse resistance curve that we want. So versus like a regular pull up, hardest at the bottom, easiest at the top. So you want that resistance curve. And then personal enjoyment is like a huge factor because if you just hate your workouts, you're dreading coming to the gym, you're not going to be able to stick to it. And that's why consistency is super important because it's a very slow process, and if you're not doing it for months and months, most likely years and years, it's going to be very hard to build a lot of muscle. And then tracking your workouts is also something that I highly recommend. When you're first starting, you don't need to do it from day one, but after the first couple weeks, tracking your sets, reps, and weight is super important. That way you can see each week, am I getting stronger? Is there anything I need to adjust or anything like that? And it's also kind of like, as like a side note, it's fun for me to look back and be like, oh, I was doing this weight and this reps 3 months ago. Look at me now. I'm 20 pounds up and I can do two more reps. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's a good marker of muscle growth, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope. 15 more minutes. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, the next part that I want to get into is, and I think it's interesting because you're fairly young. I'm 32. You're just now getting out of high school. And especially since you went to a Christian high school, right? I
Yes.
just kind of want to know, like, is it really that much different from like a public school? Like, are Christian students like partying on the weekends? Like, were there some people that you went to school with that still held parties and stuff like that?
Yes. Obviously, I'm not going to name drop
I
anybody,
wouldn't
but
expect you to.
but yeah. So as much as there's the golden kids at Christian, you know what I mean? The kids that are really devoted to Christ, really in the Word, really living by it. There is probably just as many kids at Christian that act as bad or even worse than like the worst public school kids. Like those kids still exist, and a lot of kids that go to Christian, their parents made them. Their parents thought, oh, this would be a good influence on them. Let's get them in school, get them exposed. And that's something it gets the parents. I think that's a great idea. But it's ultimately up to kids to accept that and really start living their life like that. And
Hmm.
so it doesn't catch on with everybody. Like there's still plenty of crazy stories that happen at Christian and just like at Granite or any other high school. So I would say yes, obviously those kids still exist at Christian. Definitely not perfect school or anything like that. But I would say as a whole, over my years at Christian, I saw a lot of kids actually like transform their life. They went on a mission trip or something, or one day in chapel, and then they were forever changed, like a completely different person. So not like all the kids are heathens at Christian, but
Sure.
a lot of kids definitely did like change around their life and start living closer to Christ, which is like really, really cool to see. And just to be able to have that opportunity, I think that's really what it is the opportunity. And it's up to the kids whether they want to take it or not. So,
So when you were a freshman, like where were you on that scale of like devoted to like not really sure about this whole Christ thing?
so I've been a Christian since I was like 6. Like my grandparents, my parents were Christians and stuff, and they didn't force it down my throat or anything like that, but we'd always go to church, and I genuinely believed in God like since I was like very, very little. And so I've never not believed that there was a God. I've obviously had my doubts as I've grown older and experienced more hardships. It's kind of like, oh man, I don't know. Why would he let this happen? You know, like that's like most people in the whole world. So,
Mm-hmm.
but freshman year, I was kind of close to God. So a little bit more lukewarm than super devoted. And then really my senior year in my apologetics class, with my one of my favorite teachers, Mr. Conover, he really like opened my eyes, and he kind of just goes through like all the big, buzzword topics like homosexuality, abortion, sin, why does bad things happen? And like all the questions that we've all been wondering, like, what does the Bible really say about this? And he just explains it in such a good way. And it really helped me feel more confident in my faith. And if I meet someone who's like, oh, God hates this kind of people or whatever, I can actually have like a real, genuine conversation with them instead of just saying, you're wrong. The Bible says this, so it must be right. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
definitely in that apologetics class, I definitely deepened my faith for sure.
Was that the moment where you say that you really felt like you were taking your faith a little bit more seriously as far as being more open-minded about some of the questions that you've had before being answered to the most extent?
Yes, definitely made me like a stronger defender of Christianity for sure. I would say junior year, I also got super connected and very like connected with Christ. Junior year was like one of my up years. So everything was kind of going good, and I was just honestly like so thankful. Like so many things happened that I just didn't think could happen. And so I was just like super blessed. And then senior year was one of actually my town years. So got in a car accident. And like all these other little things happened. And so that also brought me closer to Christ. So both the ups and the downs, just junior and senior year really brought me closer in my faith for sure.
And then what are you doing now? Are you going to church on Sundays? Are you doing some kind of Bible study?
Yeah, so now that I'm not going to Christian, I'm going to Grossmont, so it's very secular. I'm not going to have any Bible classes or anything like that. My biggest thing is trying to go to church on Sunday and trying to do my own reading in the Bible throughout the week, just so I stay connected because I hear all these stories about these kids who were like super, super hardcore Christian, never did anything wrong in high school. And then their first year of college just completely drifted, hates God, whatever. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
trying my best to stay connected to the church, the word, and God throughout
You ever
these
thought about like
times.
a young adult group?
I have. It's just, and I know this is like a super common excuse. I don't have the time for it. So, um, I was kind of waiting to get a little bit more settled, into like this new phase of my life, and then kind of get my schedule managed, and then joining one. But by far, going to church is like doesn't matter if I have assignments, if I mean, I don't work on Sundays, but if I did have work, doesn't matter. Got to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And those weeks that I don't go to church, I feel the disconnect, and it's not the church, it's not the pastor itself. It's just that genuine worship and that understanding and reading more into the word from like an expert. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those weeks I don't go to church, I definitely feel more disconnected. So got it. It's like a number one priority for me.
Because I feel like the more just like we are talking about going to the gym, right? Like if you go once a week, it's better than none at all, right? But
Yeah.
the more times throughout the week that you're able to connect with God, either if that's young adults, Bible study, just looking up sermons on YouTube, the more you're going to definitely feel more connected to God and feel more spiritually strong in your faith, for
Yeah.
sure.
The the thing that I do on a daily basis that helps me feel like I'm connected every single day is prayer. Like I don't have a dedicated prayer time or any sort of like ritual or anything like that, but throughout the day, I'll just start a conversation with God. Or if something pops up and someone is kind of in a bad spot or whatever, I'll say a quick prayer for them and stuff. And that helps me feel super connected, actually talking to God about like my worries and
Mhm.
praying over other people too.
That's all prayer is, man. Is just talking to God.
Yeah.
That's really what it is in a nutshell. I was anybody that I follow back on Instagram, I'm always curious to see who they're following and stuff like that. I know there's one person that you follow that I really enjoy too because he's a really good um mix between fitness, working out, and Christ. Steve Weatherford,
Yes. Yeah.
he's the man.
Yeah.
So I like the fact about Steve Weatherford. For a lot of people who don't know about Steve Weatherford, he used to be a punter for the New York Giants. And then he talks about this time where he wins the Super Bowl. He beats the Patriots. No one thought they were going to be able to beat them. He wins the Super Bowl, right? And he feels empty.
Hmm.
He just talks about how there's just no fulfillment in that whatsoever. And shortly later, he retired. But what he was saying about the whole thing is like, no matter what you're doing in life, you're thinking that winning the Super Bowl, making a lot of money, you're on top of the world is going to be your full fulfillment. And it isn't. If Christ isn't in it, what's really the point?
Yeah. It's really hard to find meaning if you don't believe that you were here for a reason, a purpose, and that you have inherent value. You know, if you're out there trying to earn your value without believing that you are valued just because, you know, you were made by God, you're not going to you're not going to find it. And the hardest thing with that is life is not all ups. So it's very inconsistent, like up down, and the only thing that has been consistent for me is my relationship with God, and that's kind of what keeps me centered. Otherwise, I'm like all over the place. So
It's probably a good way to end.
yeah.
Is there anything that you want to shout out? Obviously, you're doing personal training now, and you do that over at Choose Fitness.
Yes, I am a personal trainer at Choose Fitness, and I'm in the making of my own personal training business, but that'll be coming soon.
So, man. Well, Jake, thanks for coming on, man.
Of course.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.